Rumpelstiltskin, The Secret Deal. In a kingdom where greed could turn a simple lie into a dangerous trap, one brave girl would learn that every deal has a secret, and every secret has a name. There once lived a miller who talked far too much. He was a cheerful man, proud of his small mill and proud of his only daughter. But sometimes, in his excitement to impress others, his words ran ahead of the truth. One day, to boast before the royal guards, he bragged,
"My daughter can spin straw into pure gold."
The guards laughed at him, but the rumor traveled quickly through the castle walls. The king, who loved treasure more than anything else in the world, heard the rumor and ordered the miller's daughter brought before him. She arrived trembling, dressed in simple clothes, unaware of her father's lie. The king looked her up and down, then led her into a room overflowing with straw.
"If you value your life,"
he said coldly,
"spin this into gold by morning. If you fail, you will never leave this room."
The young girl sat beside the spinning wheel, her hands shaking.
"Why would father say such things?"
she whispered. The room was silent except for the flickering candles. She cried until her tears soaked the straw beneath her feet. Then suddenly, a soft tapping echoed from the shadows. A tiny man stepped forward, no taller than her waist. His clothes were patched and colorful, his boots curled at the tips, and his eyes glowed like embers.
"Why do you weep?"
he asked. She explained everything. The little man smiled.
"I can spin this straw into gold for a price."
She had nothing but her necklace. She handed it to him with trembling fingers. He nodded and leapt onto the spinning wheel. With every turn, straw transformed into shimmering gold thread. By dawn, the entire room gleamed like sunlight trapped inside stone. The king's jaw dropped when he returned. But instead of releasing her, he led her into a larger chamber filled with even more straw.
"Do it again,"
he demanded,
"and you will be greatly rewarded."
His greed had grown as large as the room. That night, the little man returned exactly as before.
"What will you give me this time?"
he asked. She gave him her ring, the last treasure she owned. He worked until dawn, leaving only piles of gold behind. But even that was not enough for the king. The next night, he locked her in the largest straw room in the castle. Mountains of straw reached toward the ceiling.
"Turn all this to gold,"
he said,
"and you will become my queen. Fail, and you will perish."
The little man reappeared, tilting his head.
"You have nothing left to give,"
he said softly. She whispered.
"What do you want?"
He replied.
"Your firstborn child."
Silence filled the room. Trembling and desperate to live, she agreed. Magic swirled around them until dawn. This time, the king kept his promise. True to his word, he married her. Years passed peacefully. She became a kind queen, loved by all, and the people adored her gentle voice and warm presence. She tried to forget the bargain she had made. Sometimes she wondered if the little man had ever been real, or simply a nightmare created by fear. When her first child arrived, joy filled the castle. Bells rang across the kingdom, but on the second night, a familiar tap, tap, tap echoed in her chamber. The tiny man appeared, just as sharp and bright-eyed as before.
"I have come for what you promised,"
he said. She dropped to her knees, begging.
"You cannot take my child. I will give you anything else."
He paused, tapping his chin.
"Then guess my name within 3 days, and you may keep him."
The queen listed every name she could imagine.
Casper, Raymond, Thistlebrush.
The little man shook his head each time, laughing with delight. On the second day, the queen sent messengers throughout the kingdom. They traveled through villages, forests, and mountains, gathering lists of unusual names. Some names were long and twisted, others short and strange. She tried them all.
Hemlock, Froderick, Bumblewick.
Still, the little man only grinned. But one messenger ventured deeper into the forest than the others. As night fell, he noticed a strange glow. He followed the sound of singing, high, scratchy, and cheerful. There, dancing wildly around a fire, was the little man himself. He sang,
"Tomorrow I'll claim the baby I win, for Rumpelstiltskin is my name."
The messenger froze, memorizing the name before rushing back to the castle. The queen waited anxiously for the little man to appear on the third day. When he strutted in with a smug smile, she pretended to think deeply.
Is it barley brew?
No.
Is it thorn prickle?
No.
She stood tall, her voice steady.
Then it must be Rumpelstiltskin.
The little man screamed so loudly the windows rattled. His face twisted with fury. He stomped the ground, spun in circles, and with a burst of sparks, vanished from sight. The castle fell silent. The queen held her child close, tears of relief shining in her eyes. She promised herself she would never make a desperate deal again. Peace returned to the kingdom, and the people lived in safety under her gentle rule. And so, the kingdom learned that even the smallest secret can change everything, especially when that secret has a name.